Hello.
Welcome to your biggest audience in your lifetime.
Every audience is a good audience. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. He's a good man.
Hello.
Hi.
We are 1,000.
Oh, this is cute. How's everyone going?
Good, thanks.
I love that backdrop ball. That is very cool.
This is only about a third of them. I have my Hall of Fame.
Do you play with them at all, or no? Are they just up there?
No, a lot of them. Basically, I have a massive collection of rackets, as you can imagine. Most of them are rackets that have got some form of sentimental value, or they are aesthetically pleasing.
This is very cool. Very cool.
I'll show you. In fact, while Steve just chats, I'll get one for you just because I think you'll like it.
I know exactly which one he's going to get. He's got a good collection. He's a big nerd.
Where did you get it?
Oh, he got all over the world. All over the world. Loves it. It's his passion.
It's very cool.
How's things, mate?
Yeah, man, all good. Just got in about an hour ago. Just did a quick 30-minute workout, and then I just had a Zoom meeting before this, and do this one, and then have a little bit of downtime, and then get back into it again, man. But it's all right. Must be killing you guys, huh?
It's a strange time, eh? It's a strange time for everybody.
Yeah.
Although it looks like...
There you go. Here's one of my super special ones.
He's turning his head.
Wow, what? That is unusual. What is that about?
This is an ergonomic racket, which is supposed to be designed. It's supposed to be that you have a handle that's bent so that it can help produce the top spin, and then this actually, which is the biggest gimmick you can possibly imagine, more because the head is now sort of in this shape. As you make contact, more of the ball is supposed to hit the surface area of the racket. It is the most horrible thing to use. Next time I know you're playing with Steve, I'll bring it for you to have a hit. It's awful.
Who made that? As in, what company produced that?
It's a company called Nioxline. They're a Swedish company.
Wow, they thought they were onto something, huh? And then obviously no one picked it up.
It was first ever done by a company called Schnauzert, which I've also got that one over there somewhere. But yeah, it's quite unique. Let's just say that.
Very unusual. Very unusual.
Right, what we're going to do, Kris, is, like I say, we've got you for like half an hour. We're just going to ask you some questions about, sports, whatever's going on, and then, like I say, just feel free to answer them at will, and then we'll get a couple questions, definitely from the little one. I'm sure he'll be excited.
We've got quite a few questions that have been asked by, I'd love to say fans, but I'm going to say students, students of Steve and I. And then obviously you can see on the screen there's a little dude who looks like Penfold from Danger Mouse, who's now smiling. He hates me calling him Penfold. Look. So I'm sure Addy down there is going to have some questions. Have you got any questions for Kris, Addy? Do you want to think about it?
What's your favorite sport?
What's my favorite sport? All right, are we going? Are we started? We're ready?
Yeah, let's go for it.
My favorite sport, it depends. Watching or playing. So I'll give you what I love watching. I love watching Australian Rugby League, which is called NRL. All right, so it's a really rough sport, which I grew up playing as a kid, but I stopped playing it. So I love watching NRL, and I love watching UFC, the fighting, right? The MMA. That's what I love to watch. What I love to play is basketball and tennis. They're the two sports that I'm sort of the better at. So I grew up playing basketball, and I was playing tennis when I was younger as well. So they're my two favorite sports to play. But to watch, it's rugby league and it's UFC.
Nice. Great.
I'd like to take that further and just say, who's your favorite UFC fighter then, Kris? Because Steve and I are obsessed by UFC.
Well, like they're not fighting anymore. But Anderson Silva, for me, was like one of the best fighters of all time. I think he was just so different to what everyone else was doing. I had the honor of being put to sleep in a rear naked chokehold by Royce Gracie, who is one of the founding family of BJJ. So that was a really cool experience to be sort of knocked out by him. Right now, man, I don't know. Like, I got to say Khabib, obviously, just what he's done. McGregor as well. I think what they're doing for the sport is really amazing. I think they're both just have really taken UFC to the world. They've created the I don't know, that the fighting between the two on and off outside the octagon, I think is really super cool. So, I think they're two of my favorite current ones right now. But in the past, I'd have to say Anderson Silva.
Who do you think would win the rematch, McGregor or Khabib? We saw Khabib in Abu Dhabi, in the hottest arena in the world.
I went to that fight. I saw it. Man, I do believe Khabib is the better fighter. I believe he's the better fighter when it comes to just that raw talent of grappling, being on the ground. Once he's got you down, you can't get out, which we saw with McGregor. But I do believe that also McGregor, there's something about that guy. He's a beast. I believe that he's gone back to training. I believe that he's really looking at how to take this guy on. It's not going to be his first fight. When he fought McGregor, it was sort of like, which happens in sport a lot. These guys become champions and then they get all the money and then they go from being a fighting champion to showing the money, the Rolls Royces, the clothes that he's wearing. And I think that no matter what type of athlete you are, that's definitely going to affect you. From being a full-time athlete to all of a sudden being thrown into be one of the most famous men in the world, it's going to affect you. So I'm hoping that if they do that rematch, that McGregor has enough sense to sort of lock himself out like Rocky did back in the day, go back into the real training, understand what it's all about, and then get back into that octagon with a different plan. Because I do believe that he does have the knockout power. McGregor's still very quick, and I believe that if he could keep it at a stand-up and not get taken down so quickly, as we saw in the first fight, that he's got a chance.
Did you have any sporting heroes when you grew up in Australia? As you mentioned, NRL is a big sport. I know. Yeah, but basketball.
I think from the age of probably 13 to 17, Michael Jordan was it. Like, he still is now, even after watching The Last Dance, the documentary on Netflix. Like, he's just next level. And I was actually saying this on my radio show just recently. I was like, it's going to be good for the younger generation who believe that Kobe Bryant or LeBron James are the greatest basketball players of all time. Now that they can watch this documentary, I think it will give them an outlook of saying, all right, Michael Jordan is and still is the greatest player to play this game. And you actually hear it in this documentary from Kobe. Basically, Kobe said that everything that you've seen me do came from him, which I think is a bit of a omen to saying, he is the greatest basketball player of all time. When I was 14 years old, I had the amazing experience of going to Chicago and watching Michael Jordan play against the Indiana Pacers. I remember I was there with my uncle and my cousin. We went to America and we watched a few NBA games, and I still remember my uncle paying about $500 for a ticket. He bought 3 tickets, and we were about the 3rd row from the back of the United States of Chicago. Michael Jordan was this big. I was watching him, but I still remember it. He was just a great athlete. I think he was just a great athlete. He knew, and again, being able to get into the locker room in this documentary is so cool. Like, he's so arrogant, but you know what? He's allowed to be because he's so great at what he does. And I think anyone that is so great in what they do needs to be different. I think they need to be a different person than what we all are, and I don't think he was rude. I just think he was a cut above the rest. And, he was my hero.
I have to agree with you there, Kris. It's something that I can only imagine people get quite frustrated about with regards to tennis, with the likes of Laver and people like that, because we weren't a part of their era. and so they know how amazing he was. With the kids these days that see LeBron, that see Steph Curry and whatnot, you've never seen anything like Jordan. And you should always never forget as well, he left the sport, became a professional in baseball, and then came back to the sport and dominated again. But I need to get off other sports and get back onto tennis, because I've got quite a few questions from other people that want to ask. So I've got a question. We've got a question from Ashta, who unfortunately she's in school right now while she's doing a thing. She actually asked about, when did you start playing tennis? What is it about tennis which you enjoy the most, and who and why is your favorite player?
I started playing tennis at I think it would have been about the age of 11. That was when I was taking lessons. So I was 11 years old, roughly. There were some local courts called Pinchbeck, and it was run by a family, and I still remember him. He's probably long gone now, the coach, because he was about 60 years old, and this was probably 30 years ago. And I started practicing, and I was playing once a week. I just remember practicing with, 6 or 7 other people, students. We would practice once a week, and I really loved it. My family grew up, my uncles played a lot of tennis. They grew up in Lebanon, and growing up in Lebanon in the summertime, they would just be playing tennis every day. So it rubbed off on me that my uncles played a lot of tennis, and they were really good. Like they would win the championships in their clubs in Lebanon, and they would go on to represent certain sectors in the country. And then when they migrated to Australia, they were winning like a lot of the non-professional tournaments that were going on. So just being around them sort of rubbed off on me, and I picked it up pretty quickly. I felt like I still remember that. I still remember when I was probably about 13 years old, the coach said to my parents, "Hey, Kris is pretty good. We're not saying that he could go professional, but if he put the effort in and we went and we started training every single day, that there could be a future for him in tennis." At that time, I was still playing rugby league and I was playing basketball. So, it wasn't something that I wanted to take on as like a professional, like wanting to train every day. So I just stuck with it. And I probably went from the ages of about 11 to about 15. I was just playing once a week, and then playing with my uncles occasionally on the weekend. So the crazy thing about it was, from after about the age of 20, I don't think I played. I probably played maybe 10 times from the age of 20 to, 35. And it's only been in the recent times, in the last year, that Steve, you'll attest to this, that I came and had a couple of hits on the court with you, and it felt so good and it felt like I was on a bike. It's sort of like I knew what I was doing. I felt like I still had some game, and it all came back to me. And now I feel like I'm back in it. Like I can't wait for this to finish so I can get back on the court and start hitting the ball again. So that's that one. One of my favorite players growing up was when I was younger was Rafter and Agassi, just because he was just so different, and he wasn't tall and I wasn't tall, and I thought, oh, this guy's different. He's like my height. I felt like, I related to him. I felt like we had a similar game. And then as we got older, Pat Rafter, who was Australian, was one of the pioneers of Australian tennis of the new generation. And I really liked the way that he played. And then obviously Leighton Hewitt, another Aussie. It was just more of the Aussies that I was following, obviously, because I was Australian. But, the classics of Pete Sampras, Rafter and Agassi, they're cemented in my head as a child watching tennis and being really, really into it.
I think, I'm obviously quite biased. Steve knows this as well. I mean, I'm always in the Sampras corner. I believe Steve is in the Agassi corner. I think it's partly, I'm not going to say all down to them, but partly down to those two, that Federer and Nadal were able to create what they created, because people could relate to what they'd done and thought, well, hang on, they started it, but these guys have taken it on to a level which no one thought was possible. You mentioned Leighton Hewitt. I've actually got somebody online who hopefully will unmute himself now, called Sergio. I don't know if you've met Sergio. He's the owner of Tennis 360 here.
An Aussie.
Sergio,
Hi, Chris. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear. So, do you think? Crazy story here with Leighton is one of my best mates married his sister.
Have you ever met him?
No, I haven't met him. But yeah, one of my mates, Rob, married his sister. And I'm always like, how's Leighton? He's like, yeah, he's a good guy.
So, sorry, I didn't catch that. Sorry, Paul. About Leighton?
Chris was saying that one of his mates married Leighton Hewitt's sister. But
oh yeah, because now I think she was a tennis player, obviously, and then I think she got into bodybuilding. I think as well, Jaslyn.
Correct. Yeah. One of my good mates married her. I think I got a couple of kids now as well.
Okay, yeah, I was fortunate enough to train with Leighton. I knew him growing up. I knew Jaslyn as well, but more Leighton. And look, I'm kind of a fan of Leighton. I don't know if you've had a chance to play with him and all that, but I think it was great for tennis in Australia. You had Rafter, who was the guy that everyone loved, as you said, and then you had Hewitt, who was the one that everyone kind of got down on at some point, like Kyrgios. So I don't know. I thought it was good for tennis. I don't know what you thought in terms of growing up and seeing guys play on TV.
I think I agree, man. Like Leighton was just this Aussie boy. Felt like he was just from the neighborhood. He wasn't a big boy. He could hit the ball. He had a great game. I loved his attitude. Kyrgios, I think he's got the same attitude, but I think his attitude's a bit off. I think he does need someone to pull him in line, or he needs to mature a little bit, because he's got one of the greatest. I believe he's an unbelievable player. And, you don't want him to look back in 10 years' time and realize that he could have been one of the greatest players of the time, but he just let his attitude get in the way. And I think that's something that will only come with maturity. I think you only realize that as you get older. And, for his sake, I hope he does have someone that pulls him in and says, mate, you have got so much talent and you could dominate this sport, but you just got to pull your head in, because I think he'll regret it. At least with Leighton, I think he achieved as much as he could, I think, and he did great, he really went all the way. And I felt like he did have an attitude, but his attitude was still directed towards tennis. And he saw he has the respect for the game, where I feel like Kyrgios sometimes I don't know, I love him. I love Kyrgios. I love what he does. I love what he stands for. He seems like one of the boys. But, man, you have been gifted with a body, with a serve, with what it can do. Don't throw it away just because of the mental game,
Yeah, it is fascinating with... Oh, go on, Serge.
Just last question. Do you think, maybe this, because of his brashness about his... look, tennis at the end of the day is entertainment. As much as we love to think that it solves the problems of the world, it probably really doesn't. Sport in the end, it's entertainment. But do you think because of his craziness off the court, that brings that level of, okay, I'm going to go watch Kyrgios. He may throw his racket, he may tank the match, but he may give me the greatest match possible. But if we try to then control him, do you think then he becomes more of a, let's say, Roger Federer or someone like that? That, Federer we love because he's so phenomenal, what he's going to do. But with Kyrgios, you watch because you don't know what he's going to do. Do you think that will hinder that spontaneity a little bit from him?
Yeah, I don't think I'm saying for him to lose who he is. You still want that character to come out. But as we talked about Michael Jordan, or we talked about these other great athletes, they perform on court. So if Kyrgios was doing and he was performing and he was unbeatable, or he was winning more of his matches and he was winning tournaments, it's a different story. But I believe that his attitude is what's getting this. He's putting his attitude and his mental game before the actual game, And again, in this documentary, you see Jordan go to the casino the night before the game and have a fairly large night, but still come on the court and score 55 points. No one can talk to him about that, So, if he was performing, I still want that argumentative side of him. I still want him to have that attitude. I want him to walk out like he's not a tennis player. I feel like he walks out more like a basketball player. He's got that sort of swag about him. He's got the clothing on. He's got that swag that which is really relatable. I think it's great for the sport because I think it's also bringing a different sort of age group and demographic who are interested in watching, maybe who weren't wanting to watch tennis, now want to watch it. But I just think, he's got to do the talking with his game first. After he does that, you can do what you want. John McEnroe, that guy was the loudest. He was crazy on court, throwing rackets, verbal abuse, which was not great. But hey, the guy was one of the greatest tennis players, though. He had the game to talk about it, back it up, And I just think he's just too early to do this. He needs to show us what he's got. But when he is performing, man, gosh, he's unbelievable.
True. Yeah. Thanks, Kris. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Serge. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things he needs to probably realise. Obviously, the tennis coaches on this group will know that all the kids love him. You ask any kid under the age of probably 16, 17, who's your favourite player? All of them, Kyrgios. Because he's got that charismatic sort of, he's a bit of an enigma on the tennis court. He's a little bit different, but I just still don't think he quite realises what his role is. He seems to be enjoying the role of the bad boy more than what he could potentially do.
Or he's just a big kid.
Yeah, that's exactly what he is.
How old is he?
24.
Yeah, so he's got time. He's got time to mature. But you know what gets to me is that I'll put myself in his father's position or his family's position, who have invested this entire childhood into getting him to be this guy that he is right now, and now he's there and he's going to throw it away. And at the same time, I feel like he rebels against it sometimes. And he's clearly said it that he didn't want to play professional tennis at one stage of his life. So I feel like it was probably a forced thing that the family has brought in, or his father has gone, get on the court, let's go. So when you're pushed to do something sometimes, you don't want to do it. I interviewed Will Smith. The last time I interviewed Will Smith was about a year ago, and he said that he used to push his daughter, Willow, into wanting to be getting into the movies and becoming a singer and getting her into that industry. And eventually she shaves her head. He had no idea why. She just went bald. And he was like, why did you do that for? She's like, because I don't want to do anything what you were doing. I want to do my own thing. And it was that rebelling that she did towards her father, who was already that. And I just wonder if, sometimes he's just rebelling against what he was told that he had to do, which is you're going to be a professional tennis player. But, man, he's talented. He's 24. I think he'll work himself out over the next couple of years. And then hopefully by the age of 26, 27, he's peaking at the sport, and then it can take him through a bit.
Well, Steve, I think if I'm not wrong, Kris, we've only got you for about another 5 more minutes, if I'm not wrong.
I can do another 15.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, well, if that's the case, I've got a question from my brother, actually, Kris. He's in the UK. So I'll ask Justin to unmute himself, and on you come, Justin.
Hi, Kris. Good morning from the UK. How are you?
Good, mate. Good morning to you guys. Hope you're okay.
We're great here, thanks. Kris, I've got a question which sort of links in with the other tennis things that we've had this morning, because it is a tennis blog or tennis meeting. I'm on a podcast on Friday that's for broadcast, where they're discussing what they describe as the Mount Rushmore of sport, where they've picked the 4 greatest sports persons of all time, all sports. One of them is obviously Michael Jordan. So my question to you is, who is your tennis player going to be, and why? And you can't let your heart rule you. You've got to choose the greatest.
That's a really good question. Tennis player. It's funny because I don't know how good they were back in the day. I know Rod Laver was amazing, but I don't know his game. Do you know what I mean?
Kris, I was asked that as well, and all I said was, I really started watching the game with my brother Paul. I think my first game that I remember watching was 1976. So I'm going to say you're a bit younger than me, Kris. So you can go from 1980 onwards.
I was just born then, mate. All right, let me see. I'm even going, like, you remember Ivan Lendl, like he was next level as well. Like there were just so many players that were, I mean, you look at the likes of Federer right now, like how do you take that away from, gosh, that's a really hard question. But you know where I look at this as well, Mount Rushmore, like I don't think it's just their game. I'm going from everything, like just being an icon, you know, being recognizable on and off the court, their game, their endorsement deals. I think you've got to take it as sort of everything. Gosh, who do I choose here? Todd Woodbridge. I'm joking. No, I love Todd.
Paul would like that answer.
Hey, Stephen.
Yeah. Who did you choose? You choose, Justin.
Oh, you can't cop out of a question like that, Kris. All I'm going to say to you is you'll have to listen to the podcast on Friday. Come on, man. You work in radio.
5 seconds. 5.
I'm going to say Federer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not a bad choice.
Okay, Kris, I'll come back to you. Why wouldn't you choose Martina Navratilova?
True. Yeah, I mean, I just think, I don't know. I feel like I felt like at the time that tennis needed someone, he was there as well. Because I felt like there were some dips with tennis where we didn't have that superhero. We didn't have that dominant factor. And I felt like Federer he was there at the right time. He took it upon his shoulder. He's so consistent. He's just so cool. He's so friendly. He just gets it done. He goes in there, and I just feel like, yeah, that's why. Why not Martina? I mean, yeah, she's obviously one of the greatest players of all time as well. But, yeah, my choice would be him.
I have to admit, I agree with you. Obviously, Steve knows that I'm obsessed with Federer. I think everything that Federer represents is positive. I think the only question mark for me would be whether it be Serena or Federer, and I think Serena's got too many black marks against her name for various fights and stuff with officials, etc., etc. So that's why I'd put her out of the equation, and Federer just stays a level ahead of the rest. Stephen, we've got these 50-50 things. Are we gonna throw these at Kris? Because I know we're running short of time.
One more quick question, because somebody asked me this one and it was a good one.
Just to add, I would probably have Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Nadal, and Michael Schumacher. I think that would be a good 4 for me up there.
Didn't you just choose Federer? No, you've changed it to Nadal.
No, I said Federer.
Controversy. Oh, you know, you're going to have 2 tennis players up there. All right, brilliant. Well, top man.
Hold on. Ali. Oh, yeah, I'm one short.
He's on there, by the way, yeah. Ali, Jordan, absolutely, yeah. Federer and Nadal. Federer and Schumacher.
Schumacher.
Okay, all right.
Go, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a good question, actually. What's the best lie you've ever heard about yourself? I thought that was a good one.
The best line. There's on Reddit, occasionally on Reddit, I don't know if you guys know Reddit. Yeah, so I love, they get on there sometimes, they hate on me, which I love. And I don't read it, but I get it sent to me from people. And I remember seeing this one message said, Kris Fade looks like a penguin on steroids. And whatever that has just cemented, I love that line, that I look like a penguin on steroids. And I said, hey, I'll take it. It must be a solid looking.
That's a good one.
Steve, it's funny that you ask a question like that, because one of the things I got sent through from Simon, who I teach on a Monday night, Simon, the guy who does the modelling, he asked me to ask Kris, who decides his very strange haircuts?
I've had this man bun done for 6 years now. So I just haven't cut my hair. My hair goes down on my backside. I've had this hair for about 15 years. I haven't had a solid haircut in 15 years. I had cornrows for about 10, And then I got rid of those about 6 years ago. And now I just do a nice little man bun. I want to shave it, but I don't. And I don't know, there's oohs and ahs about shaving it. So I'm not sure, but right now, yeah, Paul, it's not easy. It's not easy to, it gets annoying. It gets annoying sometimes, but I've got it for now. And anyway, it's done me well. It's done me well this far, so I'm going to stick to it.
It's got to take something big to shave that off. A big occasion.
Yeah.
If you remember Jason Donovan's, Chris, I used to have hair like Jason Donovan, you know, so.
Wow.
That was the only thing resembling Jason Donovan.
It was. Well, Steve, we're going to do the 50-50s?
Yeah, let's fire some 50-50s at him.
Right. Do you want to go first or shall I?
You go for it, mate.
Okay, Chris. So we like doing these sort of quick fire ones because they seem to get people smiling on things. So 50-50, you've got a quick fire answer. Let's start with beach holiday, city holiday.
Beach holiday.
You live on the beach.
Beach holiday.
Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram.
Dinner out or movie?
Movie.
Nice. Selfie or autograph?
Selfie.
Star Wars or Lord of the Rings?
Star Wars.
Thank goodness.
Pretty or Rossi?
Pretty.
It's an easy one.
John Wick or The Matrix?
John Wick.
It's brilliant.
I'll watch it actually. Tuxedo or loungewear?
Loungewear.
You've actually answered the next one for me, so I'm going to change it a little bit, and I'm going to say Nadal or Agassi?
Agassi.
Ooh. Jason Donovan or Kylie?
Kylie any day of the week.
Kylie or Danny?
Aussie Open or Wimbledon?
Wimbledon.
Everton or Liverpool?
That's one of mine.
Everton.
Get off. Right, that's it.
I should have worn my Everton shirt. We should have got Rossi on, actually. I should have put my Everton top on.
You do realise, Chris, I know obviously you have this association with Big Rossi and his need to support a lesser club, but, you know, it shouldn't be a pity thing. Like, Everton are like garbage.
I know that they're horrible, but
what do you mean they're horrible?
As in, every day when they were playing, I'm like, did we win? It's always we either drew or lost. It's never like occasionally we get a win. But we spoke to an Everton player, an ex-Everton player this week actually. I forget who it was, but he played for England as well. But they all seem very nice. I have Duncan Ferguson's phone number, and I called him.
No way.
I called him up once and I asked him for a favor, and he was so pleasant and so amazing to do it. And I thought, I like these guys. They just seem like good lads. So, yeah, that's why I'm sticking with Everton.
My hero, Duncan Ferguson.
Really?
I'm a big Everton fan.
Okay.
Right. Quite appropriate for this moment, Chris, because I've been keeping up with your Instagram. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
And how is that gorgeous cat, though?
Well, yeah, if you don't know, I've had a cat come visit us every day for the last couple of weeks. So I adopted it, went and got it vaccinated, went and did all that, and now it's gone. It just doesn't come back. However, it's coming. It came back 2 days ago. We fed it, and then it went off again. So I think it's just using us now. It's just it may belong to someone else, but I don't know. But we're still looking after it. We're feeding it. We're putting the food out there, and we'll see.
UAE or Australia?
Oh, wow, that's a big one. Right now, UAE. UAE is home. It's been home for the last 11 years, but my heart will always be in Australia, obviously my home where my family's at. And, you know, one day I'll end up there, living back there with the family.
Parachuting or bungee jumping?
None of it. None. Absolutely none. No chance you'll get me doing either of those.
Didn't you do that zip line thing?
I did the zip line, and that's the mate. I've been offered money to go parachuting before, and I declined it. A company wanted me to jump out of a plane and shoot in a commercial of me jumping out of a plane. Had to do with my hair actually as well, and it was a decent amount of money, and I was like, yeah, no chance, no thank you. So
your neck or shoulder would have no chance.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, no chance.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza, double mushroom, double cheese. That's my go-to.
Where from?
And you know what? Anywhere, I don't care. But over this quarantine time, I've been making the best pizza, man. Like I have worked out making a good dough, good ingredients. Like I'm happy now with my ability to make good pizza.
What's the secret?
It's the yeast, and it's allowing the flour to sit for a while. Like you've got to let it sit. You can't just make the dough, then make the pizza. You know what I mean?
I'll pass down to Letitia.
Well, I don't know what your thought is about bread in general, Kris, but my wife has learned how to make the most insanely incredible bread. Oh. If anything positive's coming out of this coronavirus, it's the fact that my wife has learned the best bread you can imagine. Right, okay, I've got. Have you got any more 50-50s? Because I've got a few.
I've got one more. I've got one more.
Go for your life.
Coffee or tea?
Yeah.
Coffee any day of the week. I have to have coffee. First one's usually at around 4:45 in the morning. I get up around 4:20. Second one's usually around 8:30. And then depending on how my day's going, I may do a kicker at around 3 o'clock, but I try not to have those ones.
See, I know that's not true because once a week we bump into each other getting a coffee at 5:30 in the morning. Oh, I should say 5:20 in the morning. Once a week we bump into each other at the same gas station.
Mate, that early morning coffee I go to bed excited for, man. Like it's crazy. It's like I'm excited to get coffee in the morning. So right now I'm making my coffee at home before I go, just because of the virus and all that. We're trying to reduce the amount of people that I interact with. So I went and bought my Starbucks pods, and I make them here in the morning, and I get that same fix.
Oh yes.
Right, well, Kris, I mean, like I said, I know we're going to run out of time quite quickly. One of the things I wanted to talk about or wanted to ask about is obviously you've kind of become the voice of the UAE for the coronavirus. And on a personal note, I'm just going to say, I'm sure I speak for everybody, that I'm completely overwhelmed by how positive and how upbeat and how fantastic listening to you has been on the radio in the mornings, and just watching your messages that you post on Instagram, in particular Instagram. Right now is an awful time, awful time, as you know, and I've kind of felt that the way that you've gone about your business has been inspirational for people like me, and I'll be the first to admit, Stephen will agree with me, I'm sure, that I get down very, very quickly. Unfortunately, I'm quite an emotional guy, and things like this can affect me very, very negatively. But I've genuinely taken on board things that you've said and you've done, and I just think that everything that you've represented over the last 2 months has been unbelievable. So a question I'd like to ask is, how would you describe the secrets of maintaining such a positive influence for your listeners, for your colleagues, and for your friends?
Firstly, thanks, man. That means a lot. That's the message that I want to get out to people, is just that sort of feeling. I think, we all get down, bro. We all of us, no matter who it is, no matter, whoever we see, that from the guys like Tony Robbins to Gary Vee to these guys, everyone has their downtime and everyone has their low points in their life or even in their day. But what I've worked out for me is control the controllables, which means control what you can control. Because there's so many things in our lives that we can't control, like this coronavirus. No matter what we do, we can't do anything about this. So I try to just control what I can. And what I can control, I know, is my health. So I have 100% control over this. So that's why every day I put an hour into it. I always say you've got to give energy to get energy. So even when I'm feeling really low, if it's mentally or physically, as soon as I get out and I do a quick run around the garden here or lift some weights, I've given the energy. It comes back double. I finished it up, and I'm like, wow, I've got this energy. My mental state is so much better. So I like to just be able to control what I can control. So I can control my surroundings, things that I can control. I want to do that. And I let everything else that's out of my control be, and I'm a bit of a control freak. Like, when I don't feel like I can, even in these moments right now, we're 2 months into this coronavirus, like, there are moments, splits where you feel like, oh my gosh, where are we? How long is this going to happen? And then I just think to myself, let's just ride the wave. I visualize a massive wave. I visualize like a 20-foot wave, and we're just riding this thing out. And eventually that wave is just going to slowly, turn into a foot wave, and then it's just going to trickle out. And then we'll be at the end of it going, great, back to some normality. I think we're all going to come out of this better. I know that sounds really cliche, but I think we are, man. We're going to appreciate so much more out of life, the basics of getting on a tennis court and just being able to play tennis. Like, we took that for granted. We all thought that was the norm. It's not. It can just be taken away from us. So I think just be appreciative of the things around you. I like to make sure that I control what I've got, and I like to stay. I like to make sure that I show gratitude to myself. We're very easy to praise other people and tell them how good they're going, but we don't do that with ourselves. So I think it's really important to be kind to ourselves as much as it is to do it to other people. But, tell yourself, good job. When I finish my gym session, or if I tell myself, I say, good job, Kris. Really well done then, brother. You did such a great job. You didn't need to do that. And I have these little words with myself just to tell myself, you did really well. So I think that's just, be kind to yourself, control what you can, and, the rest will fall into place.
Thank you. That's a pretty good answer. I want to go for a run now, lift some weights. Have you always had that positivity?
There's a couple of questions that are coming in. I can't read them though.
I've got a few. I'm just conscious of your time, so I'm trying to sort of figure out. I
want to answer the questions that everyone's on right now who's watching, I think.
Okay, well, I've got, when and how did you decide to be a radio presenter, and were you always this chatty? That's from Turkey, from Metap in Turkey.
Yeah, Metap, what's up, Turkey? Love Turkey. Love it. I was doing TV for Crowd Pop TV in Turkey for a good 3 years from Dubai, funny enough. I accidentally fell into radio at the age of 24. I just turned 40 this year, and I got into radio accidentally at the age of 24. I didn't do too well at school, did odd jobs around the place, eventually found myself driving a promotional car for a radio station, and that's when I realized what radio was about, taught myself how to do it, and then really just fell in love with radio. And I think I've always been pretty talkative, though. I think I have always been pretty talkative.
Aussie, any?
What'd you say?
Australians, they never shut up. Tell you.
It's true. I think there was one, how's my wedding planning going? I saw that just pop up.
Yeah.
Faisal has asked about your wedding plans.
Yeah, Faisal, we were supposed to get married in December in Dubai, but we've just changed it. We don't know where now. We're probably going to change the location, but we were going to do a fairly large wedding here in Dubai. We had already had about 500 people. And it was going to be in Dubai, but we've decided to change it, mainly because obviously what's going on. We don't know where we're going to be in December. Her family's from LA, my family's from Australia. I don't want to put the pressure on them having to now fly during those times, or a lot of people have lost their jobs and the money's not right. So we'll probably just put the handbrake up on it. We may just get married via, the courts, do the paperwork maybe on the down low. And then we'll do a ceremony maybe sometime next year once everything is sort of back to normal.
How did you get Will Smith involved in the proposal? That's pretty unbeatable. If people haven't.
Yeah, I had Will help me propose to my fiance. Actually, in 3 days, it would be a year that I proposed to Brianna, which was crazy. Jeez. I was doing an interview. Disney asked me to go to Jordan to do an interview with the cast of Aladdin. It was an interview with everyone except for Will Smith. And I told them that I don't want to go unless the interview is there. Well, unless I was going to interview Will Smith, I didn't want to do it. I wasn't going to jump on the plane. And then they said to me, have you got any ideas? Maybe we can talk to Will's people. I knew Will's people because I'd interviewed Will Smith a few times. I told him that I wanted to propose to my missus and I was looking at doing it. He loved the idea. He called me up. About a week later, we went through an idea that he came up with. And then there it is. She had no idea, but there we were in Jordan. And I got down on one knee and proposed to her. If you haven't seen the video, you can it's on YouTube. Just type in Kris Fade, Will Smith proposal, and it will come up. But something that I'll remember, and I think Brianna will remember for the rest of our lives.
It was pretty impressive. I got Andy Murray to say something to my missus, so yeah. Not as good as Will Smith, but still good.
No, very cool, Andy Murray. Very cool.
Yeah.
I was naked on one knee. So I threw out that. There's kids online, so I won't finish the story.
Yeah, please don't. Yeah, I can see. So just checking through. I think we got one last question, Kris, because like I said, you're busy. I know you're very, very busy. So how could we promote tennis better in the UAE? This is from Rafter, who is a frog, but he's in Abu Dhabi, and he's completely insane. He's probably going to do something right now.
How can we promote tennis more in the UAE? Gosh, you can really say that to any sport that there is going on. Yeah, do you guys do? Listen, social media is where it's at. All right. So if you're a tennis academy or a tennis coach or whatever, you need to be doing social media every single day. You need to be doing it on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. All right. And it needs to be a daily thing. Social media is where it's at. You can reach so many, and it's free to do so. That's why I'm saying it. Of course, if you had budgets where you could advertise on the radio, different story, but it's a free medium and content is king. So putting out the content of you playing or academies teaching kids how to play or of all ages, there's no reason why someone at the age of 25 or 30 can pick up a racket for the first time and start to learn how to play this game. So I think that's what needs to be done. I think all the academies and all the coaches around the UAE sort of need to come together and basically say, okay, guys, let's start pushing tennis together. Let's start doing it. We're not competing with each other. We're really just going to push this sport and let everyone know how amazing it is to play this game. All you need is a racket, a ball, and you're good to go. So I would be saying regular content on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, and that's really the best way to start promoting this game heavily. And obviously when there are stuff like the Dubai Cup or the, whatever's happening in Dubai when it comes to Dubai tennis, you're really jumping on that, but that's what I do. And what you guys are doing right now, this is great. Like these podcasts and that, I think that's just fantastic.
Well, I think one of the reasons, I'm sure Steve maybe Steve hasn't said something to you, but when we set up Strong Too Tight, and obviously the name, there's an irony to the name, which is that Steve and I we believe that a lot of coaches are basically strung too tight, that they take themselves way too seriously, that at the end of the day, tennis is fun, sport is fun. And here in particular in the UAE, we seem to have this kind of overly competitive situation where you're fighting to keep players and clients. And instead of just at the end of the day, have fun. Enjoy it, because the way that we behave is the way that we want the kids to behave. And when the coaches are taking it so seriously, the drop-off rate is unbelievable in terms of people not playing. And we just got to Steve and I just got so frustrated. We thought, well, what do we want to do? We want to put ourselves out there. We want to make sure that people can talk and interact. We've had some great interviews. Obviously, this is another one. We've made some fantastic friends, but I think one of the big sort of plus points about social media, like you say, is that the audience is pretty much never ending, and this is why we do what we do. There is, by the way, the strong element to it as well is that I'm a master racket technician, which means I can fix rackets and stuff. So I restring, etc., and whatnot. So there is that element to it as well. So it wasn't just like we just picking on other coaches by saying strung too tight, but it was. There's a dual meaning.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, man. Not everyone goes into a sport because they want to be a professional in it. They just want to have fun, get healthy. I've got a brand that I promote, obviously called Fade Fit, which is really about just getting fit and staying healthy and having fun. And, you know, it's not about a lot of the gyms fall into the same problem where they're all promoting six packs and big biceps and big chests and girls with big behinds. And, you know, that's actually a deterrent for many people. And I tell a lot of the companies that I know who own gyms or people that I know own gyms, I'm like, you know, you don't have to convert the guys that already got those six packs. You want to go to actually the mass market who find it very intimidating to go into a gym because they don't have the six packs. So, you know, my brand Fade Fit is all about the public and just staying healthy. It's not about looking fit. It's not about having the six pack. It's actually about being healthy on the inside as well, which is more important, you know. So I think that's spot on with what you guys are going, and I love it. And thank you for having me part of the show today.
No, thank you for coming on. I think everybody will be really pleased to hear from you. See that you're doing well. I know you've got your two CEOs, your daughters, running the Fade Fit Kids, keeping you busy. Are they paying you a wage yet?
Are they paying me a wage yet?
The Fade Fit.
Not yet. No salary from me for that. Other people are getting paid from it, not me yet. But there will be a turning point.
They're learning well. No, I just want to say, on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it. You said half an hour. I think we've done, almost an hour. So that kind of sums up, I think, everything about you. Always giving back. So every time we've been together, and I've seen people come up to you, you've always took the time to say hello, asking them questions, and I think that's. I've been around a lot of people who haven't done that. So big thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mac. Thank you, guys. Can't wait for everyone to get back on the court again very soon as well. So
thank you so much, Kris. Like I said, such a positive attitude. Love it. And I hope to see you down Hab Tour very soon.
Yeah.
100%. Thank you, guys. Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.
Take care.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.